Hey there guys, this is Billy the Afro Man here, and today I've got something a bit special going on. Yes, that's right, today I'm going to be doing how I edited Shiki Abridged. This is gonna be let's just get into this. Now, this here is the folder in which Shiki Abridged lives. As you can see, there's a lot going on, it's quite cluttered, and I'm going to apologise for that to all of you people that have mild OCD out there. I'm not bothered by working in a cluttered space, so it doesn't really affect me, but I just want to apologise to all of you out there that are sat there looking at it going, oh my god, what is going on? It's not organised at all! And I'm going to point out, this is in fact the final drafted MP4 version of the episode. As you can see, it's a big son of a bitch. So come with me, and we shall see how this thing got to be so huge. Now, this is the Sony Vegas file in which I edited the majority of the episode. A lot of it is broken down into its individual little scenes, which I'll bring up later. Now, let's go through this in order, shall we? This here, the start of it, it has a lot of standard lip flaps with the half open, half closed, etc, that you're probably all used to knowing about if you have any kind of knowledge on how these Abridged series have been made. But the first actual visual edit that I decided to share with you is this shot here of this woman, which for some reason isn't showing up on the screen. What the fuck is wrong with you? Here we go. In the original shot, she was in fact smiling, and so obviously I took it into Photoshop, I reworked it, and I made it so that she has this nice little frown as she's groaning internally at this horrible, horrible joke that I decided to make. Now, the next shot I wanted to bring to people's attention is this one shot here of Megumi and Kaori walking down the street. In this shot, they're both actually talking, and I didn't want that, just to kind of stick with the whole idea that the entire scene is silent while Megumi is thinking to herself about Kaori. So what I did is I took a layer of both of their mouths not moving and overlaid it with the shot, and then just used the motion tracker to keep it in place. Another edit that I used was this shot here. Kaori originally doesn't have this expression in this scene, so I had to pull her shot from a later episode. I think the one where she is at Megumi's funeral and she's talking to Natsuno. So what I did was I erased the background in Photoshop and then I overlaid her. This shot is actually the scene where Megumi is running through the village, and so if you were to move Kaori out of the way, you'd be able to see Megumi in the background. Now, for this shot here, I took individual frames of the original animation and just pasted them in order to get her eye to move the way I wanted it to. I did this later in the same shot here, and also did the same later on when Kaori is hit by the car. Now, this shot here is one that I'm actually very pleased with. I'm not sure if many of you noticed this, but take a look at the right-hand side of the screen, right around here. Oh, what's this? What's coming into shot? Oh my god, is that a car? Is it covered in blood? Is that the same car that hit Kaori earlier? Why, yes it is! What I did for this is, I took every individual frame of the car driving past, and then I edited it in Photoshop. I then placed it in at the regular frame rate that the episode was in, and the car drives past as if nothing happens. The front's stained with blood, and this joke just gets a bit more complex. Now, another such a visual edit that I'm actually quite pleased with comes in later in the episode in a scene that I've entitled Word Wizard, owing to the joke that Toru says, in which he indicates Natsuno is a wizard of words. This is actually an edit that shows just what Toru is playing on the screen behind him. But what's that? I can't quite see it. I mean, these symbols look familiar. What are they? Well, let's just remove Toru from the picture. It's the Buffy the Vampire video game. Another visual edit that was a real pain in my arse to do was this whole scene here with Masao shouting down Natsuno. Now, in the original shot, it pans, and I wanted my shot to pan. It would have been so much easier just to take this frame here and edit it to give it the lip flaps that I wanted, but I wanted a more dynamic motion. So what I ended up doing was, I took screen grabs of the entire panning shot from top to bottom, and then I put it into Photoshop and I edited it into one long image. After that, I did the same with open and closed and half open mouth flaps. And then it was simply a case of putting it back in the right order and then editing the camera to pan up it as it moved. I also used the same trick again for this here, but only using one individual photo. Now, I'm self-taught. I did not know how to do this in the first place. I could have looked up some tutorials online, but I really wanted to figure out how to do it off of my own back. And owing to that, this took 2 hours. Now, I'm sure that now that I know how to do it, it's not going to be anywhere near as complicated, but this took 2 hours. This little 3 seconds here, and this little 3 seconds here took 2 hours. Let that sink in for a minute. Let that really, really sink in. Now, another thing that I did a lot of in this Abridged special was draw new lip flaps for characters. It's more often than not because in the original animation and in the original episode, there wasn't an awful lot to work with. Characters either weren't pulling the faces that I wanted them to, or they just didn't talk altogether. And when I was scripting it, I didn't notice when I was writing the script and watching the episodes through that when I had characters having these long conversations, their mouths didn't move. And that's an entire flub up on my part. And honestly, I could have used shots from later episodes, but I didn't. I wanted to give things a sense of continuity. And so in shots like this, I actually drew Seishin new lip flaps. And yes, it was a complete and utter bitch to do. Another problem with the lip flaps was Toshio Ozaki, mainly because he smokes that damn cigarette in almost every scene that he's in, to the point where it was so frustrating that I almost gave up. And instead, what I did was, I either took shots of him not smoking at all, or I did little tricks like I did here. Now, as you can see, in this bottom layer here, this is the original clip from the episode of the smoke moving upwards. I didn't want it to have a static feel to it. I really wanted it to be moving smoke, otherwise it would just look weird and jarring. So what I did was I cropped around here using the masking tool, and I had the cigarette included in this as well. And what it essentially did was it moved up and down. Here we go. Here's an individual shot of it, and then I just used this to lip flap as normal, while in the background the smoke moved. And in the end, I think I did a pretty good job. Another major example of lip flaps that needed redrawing is Tatsumi here. Tatsumi, in the original shot for this scene, did not smile once. While we're on the subject of edits from the episodes, I also wanted to kind of put in this little bit of custom animation that I did for Toshio. Well, it's not really animation, it's more just like frame by frame. But what it is I have him doing a little while he speaks. But essentially, I've just animated his lips moving into kind of puckered mouth thing, and then going back to normal. It's not a big edit, but it was one that I was quite pleased with, so I really wanted to get it in there somewhere. Another kind of major edit from this episode was in the scene Tons of Draculas and its sequel, Tons of Draculas 2. It's basically just in the scene of the nurse covered in blood, and I didn't originally want to say an awful lot about it. Just that, fun fact, this was originally supposed to be voiced by a girl. I don't want to name names, but the person that was originally supposed to voice this role fell through, wasn't able to voice the character. And so what I had to do was I had to step in and give her the voice myself, but I'm not that confident in imitating a girl's voice, and so what I just ended up doing was making her ramble incoherently. Again, looping back to the point about lip flaps, this scene here had a bit of hand-drawn lip flaps as well. It actually stems from a directing issue in that these three guys are all voiced by two very close friends of mine. Guy number one right here is voiced by Joshua Shaw, as is this guy here. The guy in the middle is voiced by SSJ Fred Burger, as he would prefer to be known. And originally, he wasn't supposed to speak with the voice that he had, but we just kind of went with it. You'll find out more about that in the blooper special, but what I really want to bring attention to is this guy right here. This guy wasn't supposed to speak, because funnily enough, in the original episode, he didn't speak. So, down here, I had to draw him new lip flaps, and the reason why I had to give this guy new lip flaps is because this guy's lines, aka, "Hey, where's that bitch?" was originally supposed to come from this guy. He gave the second one a different voice because he misread the script and refused to do the line again. Thus, we have this guy. He also was supposed to say, "Hey, where's Seishin?" Josh could not pronounce Seishin. Thus, the line got changed to, "Hey, where's that bitch?" Here's a fun fact. Let's talk Easter eggs. No, I don't mean little hidden things in the episode. I mean literal Easter eggs. See this here? That's right there in that shot. What's another thing? Here's another Easter egg. Oh, look at that. What's that in the corner of Nasuno's room that strangely disappears when the camera gets distorted? It's a literal Easter egg. I'm so funny. Another big edit for the Abridged series in general comes in this scene here. This guy's eyes, as you can see, move around the room. Now, if we just isolate this frame here. Oh my god, that's terrifying. Basically, what I did with this guy is I whited out his eyes in Photoshop, and because in the original episode his eyes are just tiny dots anyway, it was really easy just to animate these, just to move across his face while he was talking to her. I also did this in a shot later on in Tons of Draculas, where the red-headed chick has just stabbed the girl and the two other nurses like turn their heads to look at her. That was basically the same thing. I just whited out their eyes, drew new ones, and then put them back on. And I guess this wraps things up, actually. Fun fact, though, this image here, that's not just a funny little drawing of me as Snow White. The reason I included that was because, actually, this was my Halloween costume for this year.